responders and doctors and scientists. They're going to empathize, and empathize with what it must be like to be a person like you in your 20s who gets thrust into this world unknowingly and confronted with one of the most, if not the most, important discovery in the history of human beings. The big question, are we alone? It's the number one question. There's
Right.
two questions, right? What happens when we die, and are we alone? Those are the two big questions.
Right.
And if we're not alone, and someone knows we're not alone, and these some people who know we're not alone are these bungling sort of
Even if they
military
weren't,
folks.
it's a crime that
Yes.
they're not telling the
Yes.
rest of us.
But I mean, I don't mean bungling in terms of they're incompetent. I mean, they can't be competent. It seems to me, to what you're describing, that no one can be competent with this technology. Like the Victorian era scholars analyzing some sort of a nuclear reactor. There's no way.
Why do you
It's
think
beyond us.
Why do you think they're not telling us? Let's just make an assumption that this is true right now. Why do you think that they're not telling us, that our government doesn't tell us? What's your best
Well,
thought?
let me put it into what you do. If I'm the president, okay, and I get this information, what do I do with this? What do I do with this? There's something that we don't know. There's something we don't understand. There's something that came from another world. We got it tucked away in the mountains, and just wanted you guys to know about it. Hey, sleep tight. Hey, American Idol's on tonight. Who do you think's going to win?
Yeah.
Who's going to win
Yeah,
America's
no,
Got
that's
Talent?
not gonna happen.
So one is uncertainty, and the other one is what Bob and I have talked about a lot. Absolutely not knowing what to tell people because you don't really understand it yourself, even though
Right.
you've got
What
these.
do you say? If you want to run a government, you want to get people to pay their taxes.
But there's something else.
Yeah.
Because,
What do you say?
So you have these objects flying with impunity, right? But you have something else.
Well, not only that, what can you say? Like, how much do you really know?
I think it's
Exactly.
mainly the technology. They
That's-
just want to keep the technology secret because
Military.
if there's, yeah,
Whoever
Yeah.
gets this
There's
wins, dude.
Yeah,
They win.
you
Right.
control the where you literally become invincible once you master the technology. You cannot penetrate a field like that. So imagine I know it's all science fiction, but science fiction turns into science fact. If you have real force fields around aircraft and battleships, you win. You win. You can
Right.
force your will upon anybody. And like I said, there's so much more to the story. When I was first there were Russian scientists at S4. This was early on in the project.
So this was before Operation Paperclip became public as well, right? So
I would imagine.
that was
I don't know what the dates
Yeah,
were.
when was that?
when did that was that?
Recent. 98, I think.
98.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the dates on it.
So it's roughly 10 years later, Operation Paperclip becomes Freedom of Information Act.
We're talking about Russia, not Germany. He's talking about Russian scientists.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, Russian scientists, a lot of them came from Germany. A lot of those rocket scientists that work with NASA, they all came from Nazi scientists.
Got it.
So some Russians got some of them.
I
we
just
got
know
some of them.
at some point there was intense
collaboration
cooperation
with
I mean,
Russia.
even exchanging some ideas on nuclear weapons and EMP tests and stuff like things we would never have discussed with them. But at the same time, it was in the late '80s. They were involved and actually in the area at S4 with us.
So
And
you got to communicate with these guys, or you saw them?
no, I knew they were there. Barry would talk about the commies that were there.
The commies?
Yeah, the commies. And
That was back when they were the commies. Right?
yeah,
It was the
yeah,
Cold
they
War.
were real commies.
Isn't that interesting?
And at some point, it wasn't our group, but at some point, there was a big discovery made. And this did not happen when I was there. It happened in between my trips to there. And after that, apparently, they decided it was just too cool to share with anybody, and the Russians were never allowed back on the base after that.
But you don't know what that discovery was?
No, like I said, it wasn't my group. So one of the other groups really found out something. But in typical American fashion, it was, all right, this is ours. You guys get the hell out of here.
Was there any inkling that any other government had something similar?
No, nothing that I had heard.
See, that was the thing that always freaked me out, was why, if something was so superior to human beings, it's almost like visiting an ant colony. Like, why would you go to the queen? I don't give a fuck who the queen is. I'm a human. I'm so superior to you ants. I don't care who you have running your hive. I'm just going to study it.
I think it's who got it.
Who got it?
Look at the, rocket technology in Germany.
But they got 9 of them?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me either. So they were either in the same area or one had clues to where others were. I mean, I don't know. You have to fill that in there, but you're right. I mean, 9 of them. That's a big dig if it was archaeological.
Well, one of the more recent sightings and these discussions that have been coming out recently from Air Force pilots and Navy pilots, they've been talking about things happening in the ocean, and that something literally goes into the water, or something maybe below the
You're
surface
thinking
of the
about
water.
the 2004 Tic Tac Nimitz
Yeah.
case. So that's one George Knapp and I broke on the radio twice before the New York Times, so I know this one really well. Commander Fravor and those pilots. There was a disturbance on the surface of the water. Commander Fravor visually saw what looked like similar to a cross, some object. So it's like as if you have some coral under the water and it's breaking over.
Right.
The Tic Tac is doing this crazy maneuver that defies. It's a gravity-propelled system.
They saw it in the sky before they saw it in the water, right?
Yeah, so there were radar that was picking these things coming down from 80,000 feet and dropping to 50 feet in less than a second.
This is it, Jamie? What is this?
Yeah, this is actually on the news today. There was a briefing.
So a lot of people get this confused.
Not this one then either?
No, so
Or, sorry.
that is called the gimbal. So there's 3 videos released by the Pentagon that are all
Just
actual.
play and keep the volume off.
Okay.
I would really just pay attention to the source videos. So you've got the Tic Tac, which is this object that Commander Fravor saw. Another pilot filmed it with a FLIR pod, and it goes. Choop. But this one you see is really important to Bob's story. The gimbal craft. It's been recently analyzed. It's FLIR. Not only does it's definitive that it's not a conventional anything by its movements, but there's a pocket of cold air around a propulsion source. So this object, by the way, sat stationary for days, if not weeks. It sat stationary.
Yeah, they found it 11 hours later, and they were saying there's no way this thing, using that kind of energy to go that fast, could just
Right.
hover for
The amount of
11
time.
hours.
And by the way, you're seeing a very small part of what happened that day. This object was not alone. And so hopefully that information comes out, and we can, I wish we had video of it. I'm sure we'd all want to